Let's start with the new CNN poll. New CNN poll shows that Donald Trump has never been more unpopular than he is right now. Donald Trump's disapproval rating in this new CNN poll, it's actually higher. His disapproval rating is higher than it was in the immediate aftermath of January 6th. After January 6th, a whopping 62% of Americans said they disapproved of Trump. Today, the number of Americans who say they disapprove of Donald Trump is not 62%, it is 63%. 63% disapprove, only 37% approve of Trump. That means right now he is 26 points underwater in terms of his approval rating with the American people. That's astonishing.
If you thought things couldn't possibly get worse for Donald Trump, first, stop thinking that. Because they absolutely can, and they absolutely are. And second, go ahead and put a big smile on your face, because we've got yet another crack in the MAGA coalition. Trump's loudest cheerleaders are quickly becoming his fiercest critics, and some of them are now choosing to leave Congress entirely just so they can launch a full-time crusade against him. The latest to join that wave is South Carolina's Nancy Mace, with a shocking report that's a major bombshell for both Donald Trump and Mike Johnson. And we're going to break it all down. But before we do, if you could quickly leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It really helps support our work. Now, before we dive into this bombshell story about Nancy Mace and the decision shaking MAGA, I want to start with why she may be making it. And that begins with this report on Donald Trump's terrible polling from Rachel Maddow right here.
Start with the new CNN poll. New CNN poll shows that Donald Trump has never been more unpopular than he is right now. Donald Trump's disapproval rating in this new CNN poll, it's actually higher. His disapproval rating is higher than it was in the immediate aftermath of January 6th. After January 6th, a whopping 62% of Americans said they disapproved of Trump. Today, the number of Americans who say they disapprove of Donald Trump is not 62%, it is 63%. 63% disapprove, only 37% approve of Trump. That means right now he is 26 points underwater in terms of his approval rating with the American people. That's astonishing. Elsewhere in this CNN poll, we learned that Americans say that Trump has hurt America's standing in the world more than helped it. And they say that by a 24-point margin. Since he has been back in office, he has hurt America's standing in the world more than he has helped it. America, how do you feel about Trump tearing down the East Wing of the White House? Well, 10% of Americans say they like that. His support on that is 10%. More than 5 times as many Americans say him doing that makes them feel dissatisfied or angry. He's underwater by 44 points on tearing down the East Wing of the White House to build his ballroom. Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll is also just out. Trump's overall approval rating in that poll, he's underwater minus 18. In this poll, right after January 6th, his disapproval rating spiked to 60%. Again, that's right after January 6th, disapproval 60%. Today in this poll, it's 59% disapproval, which means in this poll, he is within 1 point of where he was in the immediate wake of his supporters laying violent siege to the U.S. Capitol in a failed attempt to try to seize power by force.
Things have truly never looked worse for the GOP. And it's not just because Donald Trump is at the lowest point of his entire political career, which is wild to say, considering this is the same man who incited a violent insurrection against the U.S. government. But polling-wise, this is rock bottom for Trump, and not just for him, but for the rest of his MAGA Republicans who are now staring down what looks like a brutal defeat in the general election and the midterms. Because of that, they've stopped caring about the primary. They no longer need Trump's approval or fear getting primaried the way they once did. especially since Trump is now scared to jump into races he might lose, and because he simply doesn't hold the same grip over the party anymore. Even more importantly, Trump isn't rewarding his loyalists the way he used to, which directly ties into the huge announcement weighing on Nancy Mace. But before we get into that, we need to take a look into the mindset of someone almost like her political twin, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and what AOC said about her, because the same exact dynamic is playing out for Nancy Mace right now.
Tea for you. MTG, people are like, oh my God, she's saying all of these things. Like, what's gotten into her lately? Oh, like she's bucking against Trump. She's bucking against the administration. Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to run for Senate in Georgia. She wanted to run for Senate earlier this year in the state of Georgia. She wanted to be the Republican nominee for Senate. So she was gearing up for that statewide race, and Trump told her no. Trump said no. And the White House and Trump land shut down Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal ambitions to run for Senate. And she has been on a revenge tour ever since.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace display this cognitive dissonance that is so clear in MAGA, but especially in the MAGA women when they are upset that the boys' club, that is Congress, does not support them in their quest for higher office, does not take them seriously. And instead of realizing that these conservative men, that these MAGA Republicans have always thought less of women and are working to uphold structural systems to keep them down, instead of realizing that that is what's happening and fighting to break down those barriers and to get rid of those systems, they say, oh, this is just about me. I need to have my life supported. I need to have my political career uplifted. It's about me. It's not about something broader. They completely miss the point. But in doing so, they lash out. And it's what Nancy Mace is doing right now. Nancy Mace Moll's early resignation over House GOP's treatment of women report. Representative Nancy Mace is considering resigning from her seat early, reported the New York Times on Wednesday, largely in frustration over how women have been treated under the leadership of House Speaker Mike Johnson. Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina has told people she is so frustrated with the Louisiana Republican and sick of the way that he has run the House, particularly how women are treated there, that she is planning to huddle with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia next week to discuss her lead and retiring early from Congress, reported Annie Carney. Greene, a firebrand lawmaker who spent years in the good graces with GOP leadership, announced her resignation last month, effective January, expressing frustration with the entire direction of the MAGA movement. Mays, who is currently running for governor, has become known for her alienating many of her former allies with erratic behavior. However, the report said her fury with GOP leadership is not isolated, and it's only growing more and more by the day as Republicans descend further into intra-party sniping, and Democrats rack up a series of overperformances in special elections. Less than a year out from midterm elections, in which Republicans' vanishingly small majority is at stake, Mr. Johnson's grasp over his gavel appears weaker than ever as members from all corners of his conference openly complain about his leadership. Some predict that he may not last as the speaker for the rest of his term, said the report. Republican women in particular have been publicly challenging Mr. Johnson and taking issue with his priorities and his style. Johnson himself only became speaker as a result of a messy, weeks-long fight in 2023, triggered by the removal of former Speaker Kevin McCarthy by a renegade group of GOP lawmakers, including Mace herself. It is baffling to me that Nancy Mace can reflect on how much worse women are treated by GOP leadership in Congress and not realize that that is a broader systemic issue in the world and in the country that maybe a political movement like the Democratic Party could work and has worked to address. It is a level of cognitive dissonance that I cannot even understand. And it is the same level of cognitive dissonance that allows MAGA to say that they're tough on crime and they want to crack down on the elites and that they are going to release the Epstein files. Thanks for watching. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comment. And until next time, I will see you soon.